Okay, so hopefully everyone, since you're here, I'm assuming you got an okay despite the fun weather we've been having this morning. For those of you, especially who get a chance to travel a lot, or maybe for those of you who travel here to come to Vienna, I'm curious if you have the same experience as I do when you travel. You tend to sort of notice all those little things that are different in different countries, in different regions. In Vienna here this morning, I noticed how quickly they cleared out. I think it was like 30 centimeters of snow. By the time I stepped out of my hotel this morning, they had already cleared the street, which was, even coming from Canada, that was quite impressive, I would say. I don't know, like in some buildings, some really nice buildings in particular, you go there and you see they don't just have one of those door openers that you push with your hand. Sometimes they even have a long sort of a wall almost where you can hit the door opener button with your foot. And that sort of makes me wonder, when I travel and I see those things that are kind of cool, I sometimes wish that we had that in Canada or in Toronto where I live. But when I think about my experiences as somebody with a disability, somebody with hearing loss, somebody with Erb's palsy, both are disabilities that I have myself, and I have some experiences where they are either worse or, well, honestly, better in other countries, I kind of go, I wish I had that back home. And that is basically what this session is all about scaling innovations all over the world, scaling disability innovations all over the world. There are so many amazing innovations in so many amazing countries that sometimes stay within those countries. They stay within those regions. And that shouldn't be that way. We need to have good innovations available for people with disabilities everywhere. But it's not easy, is it? It's for those of you who are innovators yourself, it's so hard to scale your work even within your own country, let alone in new countries you know nothing about. But if you think about it like, building a fire maybe. Let me get philosophical for a second. If you're building a fire, what do you need? You need mostly three things. You need wood. That's the main thing that goes into building a fire. You need fuel, and you need a spark. And in the Zero Project Scaling Solutions program, the innovations that we work with are the wood. The fuel are the Zero Project Scaling Solutions partners, because they are the ones that get that fire going. And the spark, the catalyst with which that fire really gets going, is the Zero Project itself, the brains behind the whole initiative. That's what we're going to cover today a little bit in this conversation with these amazing friends and these amazing people who are sitting here with me right now. And I will talk a little bit about a secret fourth ingredient a little bit later, really, because first I want to hear more about what is the Zero Project Scaling Solutions program, and what is the wood that's going into this program, and what is the fuel, but unlike when starting a fire, this time I'm going to begin with a spark first. With me is my dear friend, Margareta Grabelna from the Zero Project, who goes by Margaret. Margaret, tell us all about the Zero Project Scaling Solutions program.
Thank you, Varun, for this introduction. I think that if I was speaking only about the Scaling Solutions program and telling all about it, we would stay here for not 1 hour, but like whole day. So I will just focus maybe on the most important ingredients of this program as well. Let's start at the beginning. So what is the Scaling Solutions program? The Scaling Solutions program basically is one of the flagships of the Zero Project. What we are doing with this program basically is looking into nominations that are coming through Zero Call, so our call for nomination to select the Zero Project Awardees, and looking for those innovations that we can support with transferring them to new regions, to new continents, to new communities. We really are rooting this program in collaboration. This is why we are not alone on the stage as Zero Project, but we have our regional partners with us, like Fundación Descúbreme. We have great partners in the implementation partner, like Access to Success from Canada. And we have strategic partnerships, like the one with GIZ that we have, that will also be speaking in this session. But what we also are very, very proud of within this program is each cohort of our fellows. And here on the stage, we also have the fellows that are the backbone of this program. In the course of 8 to 10 months, each of the fellows are going through a lot of mentoring, a lot of very well-established framework, going through their own scaling journeys with us, in order to find new partnerships, in order to find those people they can connect to and really reach new regions. So that is the backbone of the program. However, each year we are changing something. If we go at the beginning, we didn't have a scaling solutions program. We had an impact transfer program that we were building together with Fundación Descúbreme and with Ashoka. And it was really rooted in mentoring. So what business skills do the fellows might need in order to scale to go forward? Then we went into a completely different approach, because we saw that many innovators already knew a lot with their business backgrounds, and Guy here is a great example of that. And we thought, okay, so let's make them great pitchers. So each stage they are taking, they will be winning those grants. They will be able to talk about their solutions in an elevator, in a bar, and do it in a very excellent way. And then we realized, okay, so they know their stuff as a business. Okay, so now they know how to pitch. But there is one component missing. Because through all of the programs, we had thirds of the fellows scaling, but it was not 100%. And we want that 100%. That's why last year when we had our call for nomination, we had some excellent accelerator programs who also received a Zero Project Award. And from that small selection of accelerators, we partnered with Access to Success in order to fill that one more thing. Building whole scaling journeys, building up a whole roadmap, looking at scaling strategies, and going forward with that in order for those scaling solution fellows to really replicate their projects in other countries and regions. And we are still improving the program, so there is still more to come with that. But I know it sounds very interesting, and someone might think, oh yes, great program, taking one solution from one country to another, but I said that it's not 100%. So what is the impact of the program? Well, first of all, the impact is sitting here on the stage, and I will let both Guy and Deborah elaborate on that a little bit more, but I also want to get into more details with some numbers. So overall, we had 93 fellows from 41 countries altogether since we started with the impact transfer. And they collaborated with many, many other partners throughout both of the programs. And I think that one of the testament of how successful they have been is that our Scaling Innovations report, that I will mention in a moment, is based on 23 case studies that came out from both impact transfer and scaling solutions programs. And we have the proven track record of successful scaling. Just for the scaling solutions program, which is running for the third cohort now, we had Reach and Match, Iris Bond, Hable One, HappyBots, Humanus 3D, and CDeep already having their projects replicated. And we know that others are in talks. We know that others are winning competitions. We know that others have secured their granting, their financing. So we know that the program is also helping them staying sustainable. And I mentioned the report of the Scaling Innovation Strategies that work, because we at Zero Project, we have a 12 years worth of research that was really conducted by mostly Michael Fembeck, our CEO, compiling the scaling know-how that we have in the Zero Project Scaling Solutions program in order to help others to replicate their solutions in other countries. I would really recommend scanning the QR code that you're seeing if you are not familiar with the report, just to see what scaling strategies we identified as the ones that work, and to see the case studies of 23 of Zero Project Awardees, Impact Transfer and Scaling Solutions Fellows, and one other example from a great partner of ours. And I will end here, because I want everyone to stay a little bit curious, maybe talk with me a little later, ask some questions. How can you get into the program? What to do? Who are we looking for? Just let's stay connected.
Thank you, Margaret. And hopefully you did grab that QR code, because if you haven't connected with Margaret before, you will find out very quickly that you will get a response from Margaret very quickly. And I also want to just acknowledge the ambition at play here. Nothing less than 100% is enough. We want every fellow we work with to achieve that goal of scaling their innovation across their borders. But how we make that happen, like I said, we can't actually do that unless we have some fuel that can get this fire going. And one of the people providing that fuel is my friend Maria Ignacia Rodriguez from Fundación Descúbreme. Maria, tell us all about Fundación Descúbreme and how you're working with the Zero Project Scaling Solutions program.
Sorry. Okay, can you hear me? I think so. Thank you very much, Varun, for that flattering introduction. I'm very happy to be sitting here after such a nice introduction to this session. I will introduce myself briefly. I am Maria Ignacia Rodriguez. I'm representing Fundación Descúbreme, a foundation that is based in Chile, but since 2023 also present in Spain. And where should I point this to? Okay. And I want to tell you a little bit about our background, so for you to understand where we are coming from. So we're a nonprofit. We're working mostly with people with cognitive disabilities to enter into employment, and we also work side by side with companies both in Chile and internationally to support them in the process of becoming inclusive, because as you all may know, hiring a person with a disability does not equal an inclusive corporate culture, and I think you can agree with that. We have been working for the last 15 years in Chile and in Spain since 2023, as I previously mentioned. And going into the question of, the introduction, we like to act as a bridge between global innovation and local implementation. Because one of the things that we learned the very first time we came to the Zero Project Conference in 2017 is that, first of all, we don't know everything. Second of all, we don't have to, because there are several organizations outside of our country, of our region even, that are going through similar challenges, that have already proven different models, and that we can learn from them. So we don't have to invent everything from scratch every time we want to address a challenge. So this is what basically helped us, go into this direction to act as an intermediary between global innovation and what we need in our country. And for that reason, we have been the leading partner of the Zero Project in the Ibero-American region since 2019. And we have reached about 405,000 million people that speak Spanish in the Ibero-American region. And since last year as well, we are trying to tackle, with the support of several partners like Egalité, the Portuguese-speaking community in the world. And as Margaret mentioned as well, we are one of the founding partners of the Zero Project Scaling Solution, which was previously called the Zero Project Impact Transfer. And I want to tell you a little bit about our history of implementation. I won't go through everything that we do, because that is not impossible. I only have 7 minutes. But one of the things we realized very early on is that the impact transfer and now the scaling solutions is a fantastic training program. But we are still missing actual replication. How do we come from supporting these organizations in becoming ready for replication into actual replication. And since we were in the position to do so, we decided to support 3 projects back in 2021 to actually implement their projects in our country, in Chile. And that is why we allocated I'm sorry, I'm bad with numbers, $1,200 American dollars into 3 different projects. One of them was Egalité's matchmaking platform. This was back in 2021, but that's still in use. Enable India's BLIME program, and Fundaciones' 3D printing program for adaptive solutions in the workspace. And I mentioned these 3 particular names for 2 reasons. The first one is that because 2 of the 3 of them came from the Scaling Solutions program. So this for us is sort of a seed where we can, decide which of these projects make sense for us. It doesn't mean that they are not all worth it, but some of them are more needed in our country, and that is the ones we want to support. And the third one is also coming from the Zero Project Network anyway. And this was basically our first introduction to actual replication, to taking one project from a different country, bringing it into our country, and that left us a lot of learnings that I will address later, because I don't have a lot of time. And since last year, we implemented the Zero Project Scaling Solutions, the Schoolbremer Grant. That is a long name, and that is why we abbreviated in the way it is presented in the presentation. And as I mentioned, we launched this last year to support actual replication. And for us, this is a program now because we're planning to support at least for 2 more years the replication of our program. I say at least 2 more years because we, of course, need to see how it's been going. We need to evaluate the actual impact and evaluate if this investment makes sense in the long term. And this is open for all Scaling Solutions fellows, but with a special focus on projects from outside Iberoamerica, because replication within the region is not as difficult. I'm not saying it is easy, but of course we have closer relationships to our neighbors than, let's say, a solution from Tanzania, for example. So we need this kind of platform to learn what is happening outside and to decide if this makes sense in our country or not. So last year, we decided on the HappyBots' Felix, the social robot, which you can see in the photo. The photo is showing one of the Felix's robots as being turned on into green. And this has been a very also interesting process for us because we thought, we have all of this expertise from 2021, and we realized that there was still a lot more to learn in the process. So that brings me to our lessons learned. Because for us, and even for us being in this process for so long, is that one of the most common misconceptions is that scaling is a belief that one size fits all, and that is not true. If we have a solution that we believe in, that we realize this might make sense in my country, we still need to adapt a lot of things from it. And this brings me to my second point, that scaling is not copying. It's not a copy-paste. Even if we are replicating from one region to another within Chile, we need to adapt a lot of things. So for us, scaling and replication is a lot about co-creation, is participating with the ecosystem, is about community, is about collaboration, and of course about bringing the potential users of the solutions into the conversation, because they will be the ones at the end of the day that will tell us if this made sense or not. Context matters. Context, cultural context, legal context, operational differences, everything is key to replication. And when we have a solid foundation of local leadership and cross-sector collaboration, community participation, etc., our replication process is in the road to success. It doesn't mean it will necessarily be successful, but we are much more well-directed at the end of the day. And I want to finish with this reflection. We must embrace learning. We must embrace that scaling is a continuous process of learning, adaptation, and coming back, reflecting, thinking what we can do best, what we can do better, and what we have to change. So it's an ongoing process of feedback, adjustment, and of shared commitment. But after 7 years of being in this process, we still believe deeply in it, and that is why we continue being part of the scaling solutions. So I don't want to take up all of the time because we still have 4 more speakers. But if you would like to connect, to talk, to share, this is a very flattering photo of myself if you want to find me later. But there is also my email in there, so you can just write to me, feel free to do so, and of course we can talk. So that is my first approach. Thank you very much to everybody for listening, and I don't know what else I have to do, sorry.
Thank you, Maria Ignacia. I may have started off this session by preaching philosophical about wood and fire and whatnot, but as you can see, as you can hopefully follow along in this conversation, the actual implementation, the actual execution of this program is nothing but philosophical. We are all about the details, and we are all about that collaboration. And to attest to that, hopefully, I'm going to go to one of the scaling fellows who started as a participant in the Impact Transfer program, Guilherme Braga from Egalite. Go ahead, Guy.
Thank you so much, Varun. Let me briefly introduce myself. My name is Guy Braga, and I'm the founder of Egalite, a company from Brazil specializing in the employment of persons with disabilities. So we have, as Maria mentioned, a recruitment platform that was not adapted for people with disability. It was designed for people with disability. So I think that's a big difference here. And we were able to scale a lot our impact in Brazil due to that platform. So today we have 100,000 people with disabilities in our database, and we helped so far to place over 12,000 people. We also work with consulting services, and this year, proudly awarded by Zero Project with our job mapping and accessibility work. So one of the things is that I think it's very important to share that when we started Egalite, and maybe for a long time, we never thought we could be sitting here. We never thought it would be recognized internationally. Brazil has a quota law that requires companies that start from 100 employees to hire people with disabilities. And we deeply thought our business was rooted to that law, and there was not much to do elsewhere in the world. And I have to say, we from the Global South, and especially in Brazil, say have the Brazilian ugly duckling syndrome. We always think that what happens in Europe, what happens in the US is much better than what we do. But at Egalite, we have a philosophy that is the why not philosophy. So why not trying? And I had a friend of mine, and those coincidences that happen in life, I posted a picture on Instagram here at the UN, and he wrote me back, hey man, a long time, talked about you last week. And I replied to him, I'm gonna talk about you on Friday on the panel. So he was studying in Harvard. He wrote a post on Facebook, and he said, hey, if you are a social entrepreneur, you should definitely apply for this program. So this was the Global Good Fund Fellowship Program. I was not even aware if I could or not being in Brazil, but why not? I just tried, and I ended up being selected. So this was the first experience outside of Brazil. And there was a lot of why not moments after that. We only have 7 minutes, so I'm not going to be able to talk about all of them. But it ended up as bringing to Zero Project. So one person said, hey, do you know Zero Project? And I had met Michael in Boston once, and that person said, you should apply for the award. Yeah, why not? So we won the award in 2021, and then the Zero Project invited us for the impact transfer. And we're like, yeah, why not? So it was very interesting because there is a big difference from getting connections outside of your country to really strategically think how you're going to scale your impact and different models that you can approach. So during that impact transfer program, one of the most interesting things that we've learned is that we could scale our impact, but we wouldn't need to have branches in all these countries. Because what I felt is that I knew so many interesting people who were doing such great work in their countries. And honestly, for me, it didn't make sense to try to start a new business if there were people doing such great work there. So what the model that we found is that we have a lot of experience in Brazil. We're doing that on a large scale, and we're building technology for that. So what the model that we thought, it's transferring our technology and our knowledge for other countries, and this is very interesting, and this is what we are working on founding partnerships as well for the job mapping and the accessibility program. And then we came across with Fundación Descúbrame, the ICT for Innovation program, that this was amazing because we had all that mentorship for scaling, and then we had funds. And that's really rare if you are a startup, having funds to do something new. And Fundación Descúbrame had such an important part on connecting us. And this is the learning that, of course, there's always more, but very important for us. It's really hard to get it right. We have a successful job board in Brazil, but it's not copying and pasting for Chile. There are a lot of adaptations, that are a lot of cultural things that are different than what we do in Brazil. So having someone on the ground who really understands and really can help you with that, it was amazing. Lessons learned from our side, we partner with the government, who seemed to be the perfect partner, and everything was going very well until there was elections, and everything changed. And the government had different views on how to approach the project, and that created a lot of barriers for us. But I can really tell you that we found ways with the Zero community, and today the project is running in Chile again. We have a new partner, so they're using our platform, and all the efforts that we had, we are really happy to see that scaling. And for us, being with Zero Project, it was amazing because people start asking, hey, can you tell us what you're doing in Brazil, here in Uganda, Nigeria, the UK? So we started providing consulting for companies outside of Brazil. And again, we never thought that would be possible. So I'm very, very thankful for the work of Zero Project, for the work of Fundación Descúbrame, and now working with Varun with Access to Success, because it changed lives. Honestly, we wouldn't be here if it wasn't for all the support that we've been getting. And we're really, really happy to see that what we're doing in Brazil, it makes sense in other parts of the world. And sometimes just hearing it, it gives us a lot of fuel for that. I was meeting today with Hiram Shukla from UI. They are very good partners with us in Brazil. And he said, wow, 100,000? I never heard that before. You're probably the largest job board I've heard. And that means so much because hearing from these very large corporations who's doing amazing thing in the disability work, it gives us fuel to keep going. Thank you.
And that's how it's done. The devil in these the execution of this program lies in the details. Like Guy said, you can't scale at the level that we're talking about here without on-the-ground partners. And sometimes those partners come from unexpected places, and then you work with them and you realize, this is the best partner we could have ever asked for. And that happens more frequently than one might imagine. So next, I would like to go to another one of the partners of the Zero Project Scaling Solutions Program, Thomas Tromper from GIZ.
Thank you. Do I have to switch it on, or you? I just take the other one. Hello? Super. Thank you, Varun, for the introduction. So I'm representing GIZ, which is the German Development Cooperation Agency. We work on behalf of the German government, mostly for the German Federal Ministry for Economic Cooperation and Development. And what Guy from Egalité just said, it is so important, no? Because, for example, we on the policy level, the German government cooperates with the Brazilian government to try to shape and make the labor markets more efficient, or efficient also for vulnerable groups, persons with disabilities. And we are having projects in the TVET sector, vocational education of younger people. And that works quite well to give them skills and empower them. But sometimes it really, the transition from the vocational education centers into the job market, that is really, there we have a lot of challenges. And a solution like Egalité or Incluyeme, they really fit into our national programs and our development programs all over the world. And that is, I'm so grateful to sit here among those partners and fellows. And I think most of you know GIZ, but if not, I would just like to give a couple of information. So, as I said, we are the German Development Cooperation Agency. We work in over 120 countries worldwide, and we are implementing the policy of the German government on the ground together with partner countries in the global south, mostly. Our work is guided by the Sustainable Development Goals, and of course also in our area we are trying to advance the UN CRPD, to advance the rights of persons with disabilities, to leave no one behind. So these are our guiding principles, and these are of course also shared objectives with Zero Project, no? To mitigate the barriers, to achieve a world without zero barriers. Zero Project is a long-standing partner of ours. And I have to say that this year it was amazing, the Scaling Solutions program. A lot of fresh air. Thank you, Margaret and Varun. Many very interesting innovations. And you know, innovations, they create good solutions. And that is very important. But only when those innovations or solutions are scaled, then we achieve really impact. And that is why we are a partner, and we are supporting the Zero Project financially, but also with our networks and projects, technical exchange, etc. And the German government is still having some money to support initiatives worldwide. So we can give some grants or local subsidies to NGOs or OPDs in those partnering countries. I think that is interesting for some of you to know. And also for companies, big and small-sized companies, we have funding programs like Develop or Invest for Jobs. So it is always good to approach us and ask us whether it is possible to support a solution, a project that you want to scale. And I'm really happy to sit here next to Deborah. She is, we met, I think, multiple times this year, also on the Global Disability Summit. I don't know whether who of you has attended the Global Disability Summit last year in Berlin. That was also an amazing event and very important because there's also political momentum at the moment with the Amman-Berlin Declaration in place. That is the final declaration of the Global Disability Summit. And more than 75 countries signed this declaration, and they really are committed to make their national programs, development projects more inclusive for persons with disabilities. And we are trying now to link those countries and their projects also with the Zero Project Fellows. We are about to establish an AI database and so on and so forth. I'm very curious to see how it will evolve. And yeah, I think that is that from my side. And I'm happy to give back to you, Varun.
I will say I've gotten a bit of a sneak preview into that AI database, and folks, we are in for a treat when that's out. The other thing about the Zero Project Scaling Solutions program, as you've heard, I think many times over the last couple of days, the Zero Project is truly global in scale. There have been something like 180 countries that have been involved in some capacity or the other over the years. And what the Zero Project does best is not just bring those people together, but actually help them all over the world through a worldwide net. And one of those people that this program had the pleasure of working with is Deborah Maboya from Thai, Tanzania. Deborah, we'd love to hear your story.
Thank you very much. Yes, good morning, everyone. I think it's almost afternoon. My name is Deborah Maboya. I'm the Deputy Executive Director from Thai, Tanzania, and I'm really happy to be here. So I would want us to start by painting a picture. Imagine growing up in a world where you feel invisible, where your needs are not considered, be it in school, within your community, or even your family. In Tanzania, taking an example, sign language interpretation, it is still very rare in public places, places for worship, or within our community, especially in mainstream media. This is the reality, and majority of young children with disability are often left closed in the doors at home due to stigma. I remember visiting one of the rehabilitation center and speaking to one of the mothers who had a child who has a disability, and she said that for years, she had to hide her child at home because of the fear, what people will say when they look at them. Moments like this really stayed with me. And that is why at Thai, we believe that inclusion begins with stories. Before changing of policies, system adapt, the mindset needs to be shifted. And that's why we came with Pamoja Project. So Pamoja is a Swahili word, which means togetherness. We want to use the power of storytelling and technology to correct real stories from children with disabilities, from families, from teachers, transform these stories together into animated videos with the aim of inspiring social behavioral change. Because we want to ensure that every child who has disability has equal opportunity regardless of their background and their physical appearance. So I would want to just take you in a snippet of what we do so that you can be able to understand me better.
The starting line, ladies and gentlemen, out of the nation of Tanzania, number 34, Mira.
So this is just a snippet, so that I can take you back to the YouTube channel to be able to see more content. We create all this content in-house. We have our own team from the story development towards the dissemination, focusing on the human-centered design approach. So Tai was so fortunate to be part of the Zero Project Awardees in 2024, but also being part of the Zero Project Scaling Fellow in 2025. And this fundamentally impacted our organization in a very great way, because it did not only give us visibility, but also give us access to the ecosystem. Through the Zero Project, we were able to have a global visibility through the learnings and the lessons that we had. I remember being part of the mentoring session through the Dr. Anthony. I have seen him this time around, whereby we learned how to do pitching. I didn't know that I could speak about Tai in less than 90 seconds. It was so incredible. But also people like Bernard Chile, who was actually mentoring us on really thinking deep, how best can we scale? But also I got the opportunity to go to the Global Disability Summit, where I met with Zula Tribe. It's an organization based in Germany, and currently we're in conversation on how we can be able to distribute comic books to the German-speaking communities. What an achievement. And I also remember we met with Ken Godey, who is the founder and executive director based in US from D.H. Rose Foundation, and with whom we are currently implementing a project in Tanzania focusing on hearing impairment. And we are looking to engage with over 30 schools within Tanzania, but also within East Africa. But also, Zero Project, being part of the Scaling Fellows, provided us with technical expertise. Last year, we met with Stefan Barak. I didn't see him this year, but he volunteered his technical expertise to review accessibility features of our website, of our application, ensure that they are inclusive. We were so happy, and the team were very much amazed on that. These are just sample of the partnership that we have been able to establish through the Zero Project. But also closer to home, I met with Irene from Inebo last year, and with our conversation, Tai was able to get a platform in the Inclusive African Conference in Nairobi, where we were able to share about the work that we do. But even closer to home, through working with Ella Foundation, who are based in Tanzania, we were able to organize a fashion show for deaf community and bringing together different stakeholders and really be able to have conversation, removing the stigma surrounding children with disability. And this is just the beginning. The impact is all about the numbers and how with the feedback that we get for the individuals. We have been able to train girls with disability on digital skills, something that is not really done in our community, but also with our content, we have been able to disseminate into traditional social media channels. Currently, we have a partnership with one of the main media, television in Tanzania, in which they're showcasing our content in monthly basis, but also physically reaching over 6,000 people, young people within our community, impacting them with the stories. Last but not least, feedback is really important for us, because it helps us to reform the way we do our work. What can we be able, is our modality working? What can be able to be done? Some of the key feedback that we got from our beneficiaries is one, he has disability, and he said after watching one of our content, he felt confidence, actually, and not ashamed anymore. Another amazing young girl said that for her, after watching the content, she felt like she had the responsibility to support her fellow classmate who had disability. As I said earlier, it's all about the change of mindset. So if you believe that the work that Tai does resonates with yours, all about inclusive storytelling, I would really love to connect with you after here. Thank you.
Thank you, Deborah. As you said, we're just getting started. Now bear with me while I take you back to that analogy of fire. We've talked about the wood, we've talked about the fuel, we've talked about the catalyst. What's missing? Think about a campfire in the dark crackling away, or a fire in a fireplace in your home on a cozy winter night crackling away. What's missing? Usually in one of those cases, there's somebody standing over the fire, stoking it, poking it, prodding at it, keeping the fire going, adding more wood. You need somebody to keep that fire going. We at Access to Success, as the implementation partner of the Zero Project Scaling Solutions program, try to play that role. As we learned here today, this is not a philosophical conversation. This is very much an implementation and execution conversation. So when we talk about helping the fellows scale, how do we do that? We do that through a very customized, hands-on program which delivers very tailor-made programming, content, matchmaking, masterclasses for the Scaling Solutions fellows. That content will include conversations on fundraising and funding strategy, on co-designing with the disability community, on how do you actually engage in international expansion, and now how can you use AI to fuel those efforts. All of this is further supplemented by a very dedicated matchmaking effort where we scour the world and the entire network of the Zero Project for people, organizations, and experts who can help these fellows achieve that goal of transferring their innovations to new regions. So now, if you're here, you're interested in innovation in some capacity. Either you're an innovator yourself, or you are an organization that supports innovations, or you're just curious about innovation. If you are here, we want to hear from you. So Margaret, can you tell us, for people who are here and who want to get involved in the Zero Project Scaling Solutions program, how can they do that?
The easiest way is to submit your nomination when we will have our next Zero call. We are always scouting for fellows through the Zero Project shortlisted or awarded solutions that are coming to us, because we need them to be innovative, we need them to be impactful. And that third thing that some people are asking us, hey, what scalability? That's replication potential that each innovation that is being awarded with the Zero Project Award needs to fulfill. But if you are a partner, if you think that, hey, what can I do to support this program? The easiest way to get involved is to talk with one of the Zero Project team members, just to say your interest. Because what maybe we didn't mention, and maybe I can add that to my part of the presentation, is that it's also tailor-made not only for the fellows, but also for the partners. If a partner says, I'm only looking for ICT solutions, we will only recommend ICT solutions. If the partner says, I want to focus on the Global South, we will look for innovations from the Global South. If they say, we are looking for those innovations that we can bring into Chile, because we know what is missing in that region, we will sit down with them, look at the solutions that are missing, and propose something. So this is really tailor-made both for the partners and for the fellows.
Thank you. And for the partners, Thomas and Maria Ignacia, for the future partners of the Zero Project Scaling Solutions program who might be listening, who are still on the fence, who are not quite sure if they want to get involved in innovations that may not necessarily benefit their own countries, what would you tell them? What is the benefit for partners to get involved in this program? Maria Ignacia, let's start with you.
That's a difficult question. But first of all, I want to say that the Scaling Solutions program for us is valuable in two ways. The first one, and most indirect one, I think, is that it helps us keep ourselves in our toes for what's coming. And I want to stress this because we as disability organizations, I come from a grassroots organization initially. We are not a business, like GIE, for example. we tend sometimes to keep ourselves in our comfort zone. Because we have been working in these models for a very long time, we have been perfectioning them, and we know they work. Therefore, it's more difficult for us to get out of there and try different things. So being in this community actually helps us not only see what is outside, but also it challenges us, because we can see what is out there and what we are now missing, if I know if you know what I mean. So that is one way. And the second way, it is because we also know that we are not able to do and implement everything. So of course we want to try to keep being innovative, but we of course have some strategic definitions that are not done by the team, but rather by our board, for example. So we can support these other projects, not necessarily by us implementing them, but rather helping them find their way in our society. So I think those two things for us are what are most important in the scaling solutions community. Of course, if a potential partner wants to be involved and fund, for example, different projects, or choose one or two that they believe make sense in their country, that would be fantastic. But that is not the only value I would like to stress.
That's very true. I think as Jenny Fleury said in the previous session here in M1, better together. So Thomas, what are your thoughts on new partners?
I would like to encourage governmental agencies, multilateral agencies, and maybe private sector companies, foundations, to really look closely at the Scaling Solutions program, talk to us, other partners, because it's such a great network, very valuable solutions around the world that really enrich policy, national systems, that make policies and political commitments bring to life with real life solutions. So it's really great to have the opportunity to speak to you. And if you would like to have more information, please also talk to us, other partners, to see what you get in return. Thank you very much.
And last question I have here is for our Scaling Solutions fellows, the wood which I've been poking and prodding over the last few months. We would love to hear from you, Deborah and Guy. What would you like to tell the future Scaling Solutions fellows sitting here? What advice would you have for them as they consider whether they should apply for this program or whether they should start thinking about expanding beyond their home regions? Guy, let's start with you.
I think the first thing is really believe in what you're doing. And I really enjoyed something that we talked about in the program, that it will get messy. and that's it. We might not have all the answers, but knowing your purpose and the importance of the work that you've been doing may take you to places where you never thought. So really thinking this why not moment, I guess it's something that can put you in places that you never imagined.
I will add, sometimes you put yourselves in positions where you end up with that moment where you can say, why not?
Yes, I think for me, before I say it, I would really love to appreciate the Zero Project team, Margaret and Thomas, for taking us under your wings and really giving us the opportunity that we had with Thai. And what I can finish by saying is technology becomes innovation when it focuses on people who are left behind. So we need to create a solution which surely does not leave anyone behind. Thank you.
And that, folks, is the Zero Project Scaling Solutions Program. This is the beauty of the Zero Project. Not only does the Zero Project bring the whole world together, not only do we talk about a world with zero barriers, we are working actively on creating a world with zero barriers. Please give it up for the Zero Project Scaling Solutions Program. Thank you.